Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Girl with the Rose Tattoos. My name's Becca and today I'm going to be sharing with you my book reads for the month of June. So I think I have 6 books I read in the month of June. Didn't read as much as I normally do, but I did have quite a few good books, but there was a lot of books that I did not enjoy this month. So the first one in this stack I have here is Breathless. So this is a thriller. It's about this girl. She's a journalist named Cecily Wong, and she's trying to become, a well-known journalist, and she works like for an outdoor adventure paper magazine, and she goes on this trip. One of these big mountaineers who's like up and becoming invites her on this trip to, do a story on him. And while she was on this trip, people started dying, and then she, was starting to suspect that there was a killer on the mountain. And I thought this book was okay. I had a hard time finishing this book, actually. It was kind of slow to me, and then like the most action-packed was like at the very, very end. To me, it was predictable about who the killer was. The end of the book left more questions, like what's going to happen to the killer, is he going to have any consequences, like what happened to her career, what happened to her, just a lot of questions unanswered at the end, which I think is what the author wanted to do. But it was very slow. I had a very hard time getting into the book. I don't know much about mountaineering. I don't know anything about it. I just feel like I couldn't relate to it. Just didn't really grab my attention like some other books have, so not my favorite. I think I would give it maybe a 4 out of 10. So let me know if you read this book. I got it from Book of the Month. Next up was another amazing book. I think I read this in the beginning of the month, by Simone St. James, called The Broken Girls. So all of her books have paranormal activity in it. And before I read any of her books, I was interested in books with paranormal activity, because I'm not really a huge believer in that type of stuff. But I love how she writes her books. I love how she incorporates paranormal activity. It is freaking amazing. And in her book, she always goes between 2 timelines. So you go between 1950 and 2014, and this book is set in Vermont. So this journalist, Fiona, another book about a journalist, interesting enough. The journalist Fiona, her sister was murdered, and she was not able to let go of the murder. She felt like there was aspects of the murder that were left, with questions, that there was questions to the murder, and she wasn't sure if they caught the right person for her sister's murder. So throughout this book, she found out that the place that her sister's body was dumped is being restored, and it was just this old girls' school where the girls were sent that the parents really didn't want to deal with anymore. So Fiona wants to interview this person and wonder why someone's restoring this when there was murder happened here, and they actually found another body there a long time ago. So this is actually a very, very well written book between the 2 time eras. It's such a great page turner. Every chapter ends with a cliffhanger. You just want to keep on reading and find out what happens at the end. There's a lot of suspense, a lot of changes in the book that you don't expect to happen, and there's also kind of a romance in here too, and I'm kind of sad about the outcome of those characters. It actually kind of leaves it a little bit open into interpretation about it, which I find interesting about their relationship. So highly recommend this author, highly recommend her books. 10 out of 10 if you love thrillers, if you like some paranormal activity in your books, go pick this up. Even if you never read a book, if you like thrillers, never read a book with paranormal activity, still read this. Freaking amazing. So go check that out for sure. Next another book by Simone St. James. So this book happens in upstate New York, in this weird little town, and it goes between 1982 and 2017. So in 1982, this girl goes missing. In 2017, Carly, Viv's niece in 1982 that went missing, Carly is very interested about her aunt's disappearance and wants to know more, because our family just kind of wrote it off that she was murdered and no one heard of her again, and they didn't really look into the murder or suspect anything weird of it. So after Carly's mother passed, she just felt kind of lost, and then went to this small town that her Aunt Viv visited, and the whole story is about Carly unearthing what her Aunt Viv found out while she was living in this small town in New York. And it's just has so many twists and turns, so many interesting page turners. Like, again, recommend this book. 10 out of 10. It's freaking amazing. So definitely go check this book out. Next book, The Hacienda. Got another book from Book of the Month. Actually, I think all these books I read this month are for Book of the Month. I did not like this book at all. I found it very kind of boring. So it takes place during the Mexican War, and this woman, the woman on the cover, the main character in this book, her father was killed during the war because he was against the capital and he was against the war, and he was taken. She ends up meeting someone from the capital and marrying him, and her mother's against the whole thing just because, you know, of what happened in their past. And when she moves out to this new house, you know, because she wants to be able to give her mother a new start in a nice house, and so when she moves to this house, there's weird things happening. The guy that she married had his first wife died in suspicious ways, and this house is like haunted and has a lot of paranormal activity happening during it. And she goes in and finds this priest that's actually a witch, and the priest, they kind of have like a little love story going on during the book, and the priest is trying to help her, you know, rid the house of the spirit. I just found it kind of boring and repetitive, and I just really couldn't get into the whole paranormal activity of the book. I just didn't find it that scary or interesting, and it just didn't keep my interest. I honestly thought about not finishing this book, but I have this thing where I have to finish a book that I start. No matter how much I like or dislike it, I have to finish it. And this book was something I probably will never read again. I'm probably going to actually get rid of this book. Probably maybe 3 out of 10. Just really not interesting, and I didn't really like the time period either that it was set in. So let me know if you read it. Let me know if you read any of these books. If you have, like, let me know if you liked them, or if you didn't, if you have a different opinion from me. I would love to hear. Next book. Loved this book. This is Darling Girl. This is actually a twist on Peter Pan during the modern era. It is actually following Peter Pan's granddaughter, I believe, Holly. Not Peter Pan's granddaughter, Wendy's granddaughter, Holly. And Holly is trying to get away pretty much from her heritage and the name that comes with being a darling. And she's had like some stuff happen in her past. Her husband and one of her sons died, and then her daughter had an accident, and her daughter has been in a coma for like a long time, and then all of a sudden her daughter wakes up and it disappears, and she suspects that Peter Pan took her for some reason. And this book portrays Peter Pan as the villain, and I just love the twist that they did on Peter Pan and, you know, Tinkerbell in this book, and the different aspects that they put into it. I just love how they wrote this book. It is amazing, well written, and it's like, it is a page turner, and I just love, you know, I love Disney, but I love twists on Disney books, like the typical Disney story. I love to have a twist on it, and this book definitely had a twist, and I just loved it. I think I want to reread it again because it has so many surprises in it that I wasn't expecting. So highly, highly recommend. Probably 9 out of 10. Next book, Book of Night. Another book I did not like. Like, I liked half the books I read last month, and half of them I did not. So this book was written about this girl that had a shady past. Her name was Charlie, and in the past she like stole, and she did what she had to in order to keep alive, and she made a lot of enemies because of it. And one of her enemies came back to haunt her, and this book is like also has like a lot of magic in it, about shadow magic, which the shadow magic part is very interesting, but I didn't really like the main character, Charlie. The book was very slow to me to pick up, and like the most action-packed part of the book happened at the very, very end, and I just had a hard time getting into the book. When I read the synopsis on the front, it sounded like it would be very interesting. I found the shadow magic interesting. It's just the book itself, I just had a hard time getting into it. Had a hard time getting into the character. I just felt like it was very slow and could have picked up faster and could have had more action in it. Just was not my favorite book. I'd probably give it maybe a 4 out of 10. Definitely not keeping this book. I'm probably only keeping like half these books that I read this month. I just give them away, the books that I don't want to keep. So those are the 6 books that I read this month. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you liked them, didn't like them. Love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you're currently reading, what suggestions you have for me to read, because I'm always love to hear new suggestions. So thank you. Give this video a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you get notified whenever I post new videos, and I will see everyone in the next video really soon.